Another earthquake this week in UK politics. Prime Minister Keir Starmer is facing renewed calls to resign after the election of Andy Burnham to Parliament. Burnham, the former mayor of Manchester, is expected to challenge Starmer as Labour Party leader, which would, of course, force him out of the job.
Starmer has so far resisted calls to step down. Joining us now from London is James Woolcock, Bloomberg UK's politics reporter. James, great to speak with you and put this into some context for us here. So this was a thrumping, I think we could call it, a sizable victory that took place in this part of England. What's the path forward now? What should we be watching for next?
I mean, that's such a good question. It is like, I don't cover by-elections like this because it is totally unprecedented. You don't get a sitting government going into a special election, increasing its majority by 23%, and then doing so on a pitch of let's get rid of the current leader. But that is effectively what Andy Burnham has done. This is where it gets messy, David. We don't know how Keir Starmer goes at this point. We are reporting this morning that 15 of his own cabinet ministers privately think it's inevitable that he will go, but he is publicly telling people that he wants to stay, that he wants to fight. And so broadly, there are three ways this goes out. Keir Starmer steps down, which seems unlikely, but it might happen. He might set out a path out. There is a formal leadership challenge, which would be sort of extremely messy and difficult. Or there is some kind of form of contested leadership contest, or even like a vote of confidence. We don't yet know. We are in kind of the calm before the storm at this point.
You kind of answered my next question for me, but we have some sound from Starmer that I want to play for you, just about saying that he would, in fact, run in that leadership contest.
There isn't a leadership contest.
But when there is,
at the moment,
Prime Minister,
there isn't one at the moment. But as I've said on many, many occasions, I don't think that's a good thing for the country to plunge us into chaos. I would also add that now that Andy has won, which is really important, really good, he's a huge asset to us, then now will inevitably be a Manchester mayoralty by-election starting straight away. So it's important that we pull together for that. But if there is a contest, just to be clear with you, then yes, I will run, I will stand, and I've said repeatedly, I'm not going to walk away from that.
Why isn't he going to walk away? For all the reasons we've been talking about, momentum is really not in his favor, even within his own party. One of the things I've always admired about British politics is this kind of, resignation of folks when they see that the room is not with them. Is this a departure from that? And what does he think he has to gain by trying to dig in here?
So you could take it a couple ways. I think, obviously, you've got to say ego. You're in charge. You want to stay, keep the job. I mean, London property prices right now are killer, I can tell you. And finding a new house, that's on number 10 Downing Street. But, right, on the other side of this, Keir Starmer was elected after 3 Conservative prime ministers stepped down in one parliament. And he built his whole pitch on, I am going to be stable. We're going to have no more of that nonsense. And I'm going to be in charge for 5 years and run a government. And so his genuine fear, I believe, from talking to sort of people inside the party, is this would encourage some form of Labour Party internal divisions that would not be recoverable from. So he's like, if I step aside, what is the democratic process here? Like, look, Andy Burnham has won this incredible win in a by-election, and it really is not anything like anything I've covered. But that's only 70,000, 80,000 voters of the sort of 1 in 650 areas in the UK. It's not winning a general election. And so Starmer's kind of point of view is, I did win a general election. Yeah. That gives me 5 years to do what I want. Why should I give that up without a fight? That's anti-democratic. That would be his view. Now, the Burnham view, they also look at the Conservatives and they go, please don't make this vicious. Please don't make this messy. We have the votes. We will engage in a policy of everyone publicly calling for you to go if we have to, but we would much rather this be a bloodless coup. Andy Burnham gets signed into sort of office. There is a coronation, effectively, what we call it in the UK, mirroring our sort of royals. And that is kind of the safest, most stable path. They are, this weekend, behind the scenes, basically trying to argue this out. And we'll see if they manage to sort of reach an agreement.
James, I'm reading up on this, and I see the names of a lot of graybeards, Jim O'Neill among them, Andy Haldane, another one, and I'm seeing reference to the UK fiscal rules circa 1997. For our U.S. audience, our global audience, our non-UK
audience. And for your co-anchor who did not read up on whatever this is, yes.
Help us understand the significance of the UK fiscal rules and Mr. Burnham's propensity, if he has it, to kind of bend those going forward.
I love it. First it's the algae and now it's the fiscal rules. David, you have such a hint of that. So unlike the US, the UK is really not trusted by foreign investors. It borrows at more than it puts away in tax revenues. And so it has a fiscal rule, which is after we get to 5 years, the government says in that 5-year forecast, it has to balance the books. And although it's kind of just a rule that the Chancellor made up, and the Chancellor Rachel Reeves, it has become something the markets treat as like this quite totemic. Labour is committed to not borrowing a ridiculous amount. It's kind of a vibes-based thing. So look, Andy Burnham could come in and tweak the fiscal rules. And the reason why my great colleagues in the UK government team, Jacob Reed, wrote this piece is because if you look at the people who are backing Andy Burnham, like you said, these are serious people, the likes of Richard Hughes, who used to run the Office for Budget Responsibility, which is the independent forecaster. He's taken very seriously, like Jim O'Neill, Lex Goldman, Andy Haldane. They are all very serious economists the bond markets trust. As economists, they think this rule cuts off long-term investment. They think it's short-termist. But people are concerned in the markets about Andy Burnham. They are concerned he's more left-wing than Keir Starmer. They're concerned he's promised to end 40 years of neoliberalism, as he calls it. And so he might have quite limited room to maneuver. I have to say, the dog that hasn't barked in our coverage so far is this election happened Friday morning, the results came in. Gilt markets, sterling, were remarkably muted. And so I suspect what we're all watching for here is A, how this contest plays out, which is still not a formal contest, I should say, but it is clearly going on. B, who Andy Burnham picks to be his chancellor. That is the big signal markets want to watch. And it's possible, if he can win the market's confidence, he might be able to tweak the fiscal rules a bit. But currently they are seen as like this big totemic symbol that the government is committed to not spending ridiculously.
James, we've only got about a minute left, but a couple headlines this week and a big one in Reuters talking about how London, for the 6th year in a row, I got to pull this up, did maintain its status as the top financial center in the world, ahead of New York and just ahead of Singapore coming up third. Is that something that's in the back of the minds of all of these parties as they try to maintain some sort of stability? Because you were just talking about how, you know, uncertainty breeds chaos in markets and people like predictability. Is that something that everybody has to think about London's reputation as a whole, as this bastion of finance, and they need to have a government that is able to support those systems?
I mean, it's not going to be an answer you're going to like, Christina. No, sadly. I think when you talk to quite sensible people in these parties, and they do care about this. They look at Brexit, they look at the damage it's caused, they wonder how long London can keep that crown in the city. But Andy Burnham won in the north of England, talking about rolling back the pitch to London, getting the regions having better growth. So I'm not sure that's what they're thinking about at all.